Good morning. This is the Successful Funding Show, and my name is Carl Dakin. And this show is all about funding, and that covers a huge range of different things. So I'm going to try to zone in a little bit so that we have a bit of a focus for today's conversation. And I do not have a guest today. My number one candidate had to back out at the last moment, and my number two had already committed into something else. So as a consequence, it's just me today and you, the audience. So if anyone who's listening out there wants to join in to the conversation, feel free to pose a question, raise a comment, and just share with me what you're thinking about. In this program and looking at funding, there are three perspectives, and I'm doing this from a sharpened point of observation in that I'm currently designing the specifications for a new software platform that will allow people with opportunities over here to match up with people who have resources over here. And I'm calling these enterprises or opportunities because in many cases, they have not risen to the level of a valid business. They're more conjecture, fantasy, fiction. And I deal with a lot of startups that are in this zone. And the fact that they're not a real live business yet doesn't bother me. It just means there's a longer path between here and here to bring them together. The other thing that I'm dealing with in specifying for this platform is that there are people like me who serve as intermediaries. Some of these are brokers who are licensed to sell securities. Some of these are licensed in other categories, which could be real estate, law, accounting, and so on. And there's a number of them, like myself, who provide other services that contribute to bringing these two sides together, but they don't fall under any kind of a license structure. But they are important because somebody has to be the champion to cause the enterprise opportunity and the funding partner or other type of partner to come together. And by coming together, this is not a simple flyby introduction. This is not something that as soon as the two know of each other's existence, they're naturally like magnets going to attract to each other. That isn't the way this works. The bottom line is there are many, 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 many funding opportunities out there, all competing for money. And by and large, nearly all of them are not ready to receive money. They haven't done everything they can to get ready to understand who to talk to understand what their offer should be, how to present that offer, all the different things that I work with on a day in, day out basis. They haven't done them. And again, that's not unusual because these people over here who have the money, the resources, and so forth, that doesn't make them either want to do the work or capable of doing the work to move to the center. And over here, we have the enterprises, the groups that are essentially looking for funding, and they also are not capable of bringing this together. So we still have a gap. And this gap is partly a matter of lack of information. It may be a lack of a capability of demonstrating capability as a demonstration or proof or prototype or something of that nature. It may be a lack of a relationship, the failure to understand each other, to trust each other, to do something. It can be all of these things. And this is where the hard work happens because nobody really wants to do this particular work because it may be for no good reason, meaning that all the effort to raise funding by the enterprise, sorry, wrong hand, I have put on puppets here, the enterprise, they may do all this and never get $1 of funding. They may never get any of the relationships, they may not get any of the assets and resources they need. Because they're not ready or they're not attractive or they don't really provide a value that would cause anybody to care about them. And on the other side, we have this group who has the resources and they want to do something with their money, but they don't feel compelled to lose their money. They don't feel compelled to put their money at risk in something that they don't understand. They don't need to learn about something that they don't understand unless it ties to something that they have a personal concern or care about, which might make them an impact investor or a social investor of some kind. And so this is part of where today's program comes together is we're talking about fact checking. This is a action that occurs during due diligence. Due diligence is a series of activities where the person with the money, with the resources, sees a deal that's over here, an opportunity, and they're asking themselves, is this real? Is it all there? Is there something missing? Is there something risky? Is there something that would cause this to fail? And they want to see it. They want to understand it. They want to know who's managing this thing. They want to know all of this about this opportunity. And so they go through a series of activities, which is commonly called due diligence, or in short, due dilly, or an assessment or an evaluation, and a variety of other terms. But it basically gets down to this group extracting facts across from this group so that there is enough information in their mind to make a good decision. And one of the things, unfortunately, that this group over here, the one with the opportunities, the small businesses, inventors, solo entrepreneurs, everybody that's in this group, including charities, government programs, is there is some myth out there that because they exist, that money is going to naturally gravitate over here to them, and they don't have to do any more than just exist in order to get that particular money. And that's just wrong. It doesn't happen that way. If you see people getting a check on TV, you're watching one of the reality shows, you see a check being awarded at a pitch competition, keep in mind that 90% of the story you don't know. It's like you're seeing the tip of the iceberg. What's above the water isn't all that's there. And without understanding everything else that's there, you really don't understand how that funding came to occur. You don't know why it happened. You don't know how much time, money was invested in getting to that point. You don't know about any shortcuts that may have occurred where the two people went to college together, or they had a prior business partnership of some kind that shortened the path to trust and a relationship that help overcome all the concerns, the doubts that commonly are held by somebody with the money putting it into this enterprise, this opportunity over here. So we get into fact checking, which is trying to determine what's real and what's not. And this is across the board regarding the entirety of an enterprise. And I use the term enterprise these days to include a small business, a charity, a government program, community project, all these activities that require more resources and need to get somebody else to provide those resources, needs to be prepared to explain to those with the resources what they need to know to make a fully informed, intelligent, rational decision, even though we all know that it's still going to be guided largely by emotion. Nonetheless, what we're trying to do is give them the information so that they will go, yes, I can make a decision. And two, more importantly, they can choose this project over all the other projects that are out here that are also competing for this money. And this is today looking more and more like a puppet show. So we'll keep this up for the moment. Maybe next week we'll bring in some real puppets just to make this all a little bit easier. So fact checking gets down to uh, is there something that can show that something's true? Now, every one of you has received an email, phone call, voice message, or something over the last day, week, month from somebody who's trying to get you to do something, who may be trying to sell you something, who may want you to do something that would cause you to write a check to them. And you have to ask yourself, are they real? So if I get a phone call from a group that says they're representing a charity and they want a donation to help the charity out, I now, being who I am with my experience over 46 years of working with fundraising of all shapes, sizes, and flavors, first ask myself, is this real? Is this a call that's coming from a charity for a donation? And meaning that, is this a true representative of the charity that I'm talking with, or is this someone who's holding themselves out as a representative of the charity when they're not? They're lying. They're trying to engage in fraud and deception, and they're hoping that your care and concern for the cause of the charity will cause you to not stop and ask the question, who are you? Who do you represent? How do you represent the charity? And these are all questions starting with the first issue, which is, do they have a legitimate relationship with that charity? I can give you several more examples. I bank with a major national bank, and a few weeks ago, I got a phone call, and a person identified themselves as being a representative of my bank. And they asked me, they said, hey, we've got a new credit card application here, and we had some questions about it. And my response was, I'm glad you're concerned, because I'm concerned because I haven't submitted any new credit card applications. So I don't know what you're talking about. It's not me who's making the application. Well, it turned out that this was a fraudulent attempt by a person to gain information from me that probably would have allowed them access to my bank account and allowed them to rip me off. But fortunately for me, I was busy that day. But as soon as I had a moment where I had to terminate that call in order to do some other things, I called the bank. I said, do you guys contact me? Did you ask me about this? And they said no. And not only no, we would not do it that way. And I said, well, I want you to know that somebody's out there, and they have a number, as most large businesses do, where you can report either an email fraudulent attempt or a voice, phone call fraudulent attempt to get information from you. And they collect that, and hopefully somewhere, somehow, somebody, whether they're in a law enforcement agency or a private person, is going to take action with that information and try to put these people out of business. But you are living in a world, we all live in a world, where you cannot trust anything as being on its face what it is without some checking, some fact checking to figure out what's going or not. So even when we're seeing all this fraud and deception, misrepresentation, and so forth, taking place day in, day out, around the clock, people hacking systems, seeking information, taking over your bank account, your credit cards, filing false papers, trying to steal your mortgage, we should all be more cautious. And most people are naturally going to be somewhat cautious. So why is it when I have an entrepreneur with an opportunity going out to raise money in hundreds of thousands, if not millions, if not tens of millions of dollars, why do they assume that because they made a request for funding, that this group over here who has the resources is automatically going to believe everything they say? I mean, it's completely illogical, irrational to think that trust automatically is going to take place where you and I are sitting here battling off people who are trying to rip us off every day, and, for credit cards and so forth. And yet, here we are with this group over here. It happens time and again, and I've seen it daily in my business. People come to me and say, I need money for something. I go, fine. And I go, what do you do? What do you got to back up your stuff? And they go, well, what do you mean? I said, well, do you have a business plan? And some do, most don't. Do you have a cash flow projection? Fewer do, most don't. Do you have documents to back up who you are, what you're trying to do? And some do, fewer do, most don't. And then I say, can you get me the following documents? And I'll start asking for them. We're going to go through a number of documents, third-party validations, other types of fact checking today in this program. And the people I ask for go, well, I don't have it, or I do have it, but why do you want it? And I'm like, you used to ask me to get you $300,000 or $5 million. And you think I don't need to know who you are, what you're doing, where you're coming from, where you're going. I don't need to know what your ownership is within your company, who's in charge. Do I need to know if you're insured? Do you have a strategic plan? Do you have fallback plans in case you can't do what you said you were going to do? What is going to happen here? Do you have, this information? And I get so many blank looks, so many responses that it is often frustrating for me, because I'm going, why do you think you who are seeking funding are allowed to skip over demonstration of who you are, of what you are, what you're trying to do? And this can come in all kinds of flavors, but let's just start off with the management team for the entrepreneur. So a person shows up, they say they want to raise money, and they're a single person. They're one body, which represents whatever amount of skill, education, experience, training, certifications, and so forth. And they are looking for funding. Now, if they came to you and said that they wanted to apply to your company, your organization, your government program for a job, you would expect them to provide you with a resume, which would tell you what their background and experience is, because you want to make a simple decision on whether or not this person can bring value to you, your project, your organization, to allow you to do something. And no surprise, a lot of people fake their resumes. They, particularly now, with all the AI tools that we have, we can create resumes that look awesome, that are like the perfect fit for whoever the business happens to be, which is another story for another day, because I get people pitching me who have no idea who I am or what I'm doing, and they're telling me what a perfect fit they are. And since they don't know who I am or what I do, I don't understand how they could be so perfect. But again, another topic for another day. So if you were an employer or somebody looking to engage a contractor, what would you look for? What kind of information would you want to have to understand who this person is and to verify that they're real? So what you commonly will do is you say, well, did you get a degree? Do you have any training programs you've taken? If you have a degree, I would like to see a transcript from your college. Now, again, these can be faked. People can make them up, look just like the whatever you would have gotten from whatever educational institution you attended, whether it's a certificate or an AA degree, or you're up to a 4-year or master's or even a PhD, all can be faked. So what commonly is done is you have to reach out to the educational institution directly with authorization from the person who's applying for the job. And they give you permission to ask that educational institution for a copy of your degree. It may also include all the courses you took, because that may be relevant to whatever it is that you're applying for. Um, and and so this can be verified in that fashion. Another thing that is commonly asked for when somebody applies for a job is testimonials from prior employers. Now, employers hate to give up endorsements or testimonials on former employees unless they're awesome, because it puts them in a position where they may be accused of libel or slander, somehow hurting the reputation and the ability of an individual to get a job. And so if you call a past employer and they say, we have a policy of not supplying that information, you can interpret into that they didn't like this person enough to give them a positive endorsement. They might have given them an okay, but that's not good enough to get them out of the box, out of their own policy. And so as a result, you have immediate doubts. So if somebody comes to me over here again and says, I'm looking for lots of money to launch my company, one of the things I ask them for is I ask them to provide me with their personal background. I want a resume. I want the identity of the educational institutions, any certificate they've earned, any continuing education program. I want to see if they're still in compliance with it. I have a right to ask all these questions because they're asking me for money. And if you are an entrepreneur or anyone who's a project leader looking for money, you should put in box number 1 a background documents for everyone who's on your team in a leadership role who an investor or source of funding might look to consider whether or not your team is capable and of doing what they say they're going to do. And this is a starting point. This is like, what we would call fact checking 101. So if you have a personal background, if you have experience, good for you, but don't assume that you can sit across from the person like in an interview and tell somebody, oh yeah, I've worked for 40 years or 20 years or 10 years or 5 minutes in a particular industry. They're going to want to see proof that you have that kind of experience. They're going to want to understand what challenges you face, what kind of responsibilities you held. They'd like to see how you problem solve, all these kinds of things. And because you are the leadership of this project that's seeking funding, or you're at least a member of the team that's going to do that, they want all that information because the management of the team is the single largest factor in the success of any enterprise. You can have a great plan and a poor team, and they will tell you every time people would rather take a great team and a poor plan over the alternative, because a great team has the ability to win, to succeed, to overcome challenges and do things. And do you have information that you can give to a person that would allow them to see that, to understand your experience and know about what your capabilities are? And as we talk about fact checking, there are multiple levels as we can talk about them. When you are seeking information, this person over here with the money, with the resources, may hear what you say and may like you. They may even trust you, but they may not trust you enough to allow you to simply, say, hey, I've got the information and that's, I'm just going to tell you I have it. I don't have to show you anything. I don't have to verify anything. I don't have to do anything. So when we talk about providing information in fact checking, part of the question is there a way to verify, to validate that something's real? Is there a certificate? Is there a document filed with a public agency? Is there a diploma, a document? We've talked about employment. There's a variety of different things there. Do I have a testimonial from a prior employee or a former partner or somebody as to a person's character, integrity, their honesty, and ability to take on projects and work, within a team or independently? When we talk about this, first we have to identify what is it the fact that we want to know, and then we ask ourselves what out here is available that can prove this fact is true, and allow not only is it true, but to measure it with some degree of quality, quantity, whatever is going to go. So I can tell people I had an education because I did. It's true. People go, well, that's nice, but how much education did you get? Because in this world, a lot of times a degree from a university is more important than whether you got an A, B, C, D, E, or F on your grade card from that university. They just got a degree. They got through it somehow. I myself happen to have a undergraduate degree, accounting and finance major, and then I went on to law school and got a Juris Doctor degree. So I have what's called a graduate degree that is good or equivalent to a PhD or anything at that level. Supposedly better than a master's, but these are all academic degrees which represent that a third party, an educational institution, took my money, tested me on a variety of topics, and decided that I met their criteria for giving me a degree in the form of a diploma. And that's all recorded. So it can be verified by going to someone else other than me and saying, here's where we're at. So to this point, we fact checked me as an entrepreneur, or you as an entrepreneur, or each member of your management opportunity. Put all this information together, put it in a digital form. If it requires and it's available that you can get stuff from a third party for free or a small fee and easily, then you want to add that information to what you have that's available. It's sitting to the side here because you may never be asked for it. And in some cases, you may want to talk about it. You may want to put it into your slide deck. You certainly want to put it into the bio that you put into your offering memorandum. And you allow people to do these things so that you can give that person who has the resources you're looking for a quick, professional response that is not inconvenient. It isn't an arduous task. It allows them to quickly verify, validate who you are, what your experience is, so that they can judge you and your ability to take this particular opportunity and carry it forward to a point of success. So we're halfway through today's program, and we've only talked about one thing, which has to do with the people who are on the management team, but we're not done yet. And so we may end up staying on the topic of fact checking for 1, 2, or maybe even 3 additional programs going forward over time. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with this show, I try to put it on every Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock Mountain Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, and that's getting late in the day for people in Europe and elsewhere. In these programs, I'm here to share information. The chat room is open. If you happen to be watching this live on YouTube or on LinkedIn, you have the ability to ask questions, to post them up, and I can respond to them here. And ordinarily, I would have a guest who would work with me to try to answer your questions or give you some feedback on your comments. And unfortunately, it's just me this morning, so here's what you get. But one of the problems with being an entrepreneur, with being a project leader, a champion for a particular program or something, is that many times your experience is hard to document, meaning that you went out and did something, you gained some unique experience. You were the tip of the spear on a particular project that went where man or woman has gone before, and you have unique experiences. there is no third body institute. There is no someone out there who can capture that experience, who can document its truthfulness, its accuracy. So it's left up to you. And there are ways that you can do that. If you have that unique experience and you think it's vital to the project you're on, and it's also a selling point to the person with the resources you're looking for, then you should figure out how to create your own micro documentary that talks about this. This may be, a 30-second, 1 minute short video clip of you doing something, talking about your experience, maybe sharing it with anyone else who might have been there, done that, or is aware of what you did, so that this is in your repertoire, it's in your portfolio of experiences. If you're an artist, a fine artist, you will have a book where you show your drawings and in products, pictures of them, gallery showings and things like that. This is your walking validation of who you are, what you do. Entrepreneurs need the same thing. If you've been out there doing all these interesting projects, then make a document, some kind of either written, printed, slide deck documentary, so that people have a better idea of who you are, what you do, and what you're capable of. And put that out there. And do it in a way, again, where it's easily accessible. You can grab it off the shelf. You can drop it as an attachment or post it up on YouTube Mini, where it's visible to people so they have that information. I talked with another advisor recently who had done an excellent job of presenting himself. He had a 4-page flyer talking about who he was, which kind of set forth his thoughts on the world, his personal mission, what he wanted to accomplish, what he was capable of, a micro resume. And he had a full page within the 4 pages of this flyer were testimonials from customers talking about how he had helped them, how they had benefited from his service. And there had to be 40 or 50 testimonials and little clips on this page. And anyone seeing that would automatically be impressed that this person knows how to provide value as an advisor, which is what this guy does. So again, in this case, what we're talking about is how can you verify, validate, what you've done. We could go on talking about the individuals on your team, but this is one of the problems about getting ready to receive capital that entrepreneurs will come across is they will tell you, look, I'm doing this and I'm going fine. I see what you've done in the past, but I'm looking to the future. I'm looking over here. I'm asking myself, can you do this project that's on the plate today, the thing that's in front of us? And more importantly, quite frankly, it's quite possible that this is new, creative, innovative, all good things from a label standpoint. That means you've never done it before. It's never been done before. So you are going out there experimenting, researching. Everything about this is all new. And you are the person who's going to do it, but you have no experience in doing this new one thing because no one does, and you don't. So how do you go about validating yourself from a standpoint of doing something that's never been done before? And what we look for is, we call it experience. Have you engaged in similar adventures? Have you engaged in pursuit of other opportunities? Are you a jockey, as we sometimes say in the vernacular of the entrepreneur world, who gets on a new enterprise and rides that around the track to success and get your accolades, and then you're ready for the next adventure, the next race, the next opportunity? And if you've done this multiple times with success, then these are all things that should show up in your resume. And again, your ability to demonstrate that you have these experiences in taking on these types of opportunities and making them into a successful product or service, a successful program in a community, or helping the community through a charitable project of some kind. If you have these things, then how would you go about telling these as a series of micro stories? This is like a biography of you talking about all these different things. And similar to the individual experiences, these are a little bit larger, they're complete opportunities, but there should be different ways of telling that story concisely, professionally, and having them ready to show and tell whenever somebody asks you that particular question. And yet another challenge for an entrepreneur is that sometimes they step from one success into another area where they have no experience. And as much as we all are proud of our accomplishments, as much as we like to think that we have almost superhuman capabilities as an entrepreneur, moving from one industry to another industry may be a long distance in terms of capability, credibility, believability from an investor standpoint. So if I were doing all kinds of work in oil and gas, and even within oil and gas, I'm only doing new exploration, and in that regard, I'm only looking for oil, not for natural gas. And we keep narrowing down my experience within a particular industry. Why would one think that if I wanted to start a cabinet company to build cabinets to put into residences, that somehow my experience in oil and gas would translate over into building cabinets and selling them to home builders? Different markets, different products, different regulatory structures, different players, different funding sources. We could go through long list. It's different. So if you're making a lateral leap, a sideways jump from one industry to another as an entrepreneur, you have an even bigger challenge of proving who you are and your capability of making that jump. Some investors will not understand that this lateral movement is a major shift that totally changes the entire risk profile of what you're trying to do. Or they may think they understand the industry you're moving into without understanding that a lot of the skills and experiences that you were able to develop in the old industry do not translate into the new industry. So there will be confusion, there will be missteps, there will be expectations not met as you move from one industry to the next. And if you're making that big of a move, ask yourself, how do I verify, validate with third parties capabilities in this area? Now, it may be that you can go to a trade organization for cabinet builders or people with woodworking or different materials handling or any number of things. And there may be courses you can take. There may be courses you can test out of by saying, I already know this. I don't need to learn something new. I just need a test by you so you can give me a document that tells the world I know all these things. And by doing that, then you have placed yourself in a position where you have gained this endorsement, certificate, third-party, objective, unbiased information that you can share with the investor so that they go, hey, I see you've done that. You've got this kind of information. This is all good. And happy that you're here. Happy that you can see all this. And we continue to have a few problems here with both internet and cameras, which I don't understand. Okay, so now you're an entrepreneur, you've talked about yourself, you've asked every member of your team to do the same thing that you are doing, which is to create this compendium, catalog, uh, documentary, biography about yourself and verify who you are. In many cases, entrepreneurs are taking on a new project with a very by themselves or with a very small team that does not have all the skills and experiences that they may want. And so it's good from a funding standpoint from raising funding to build out your team, to cover all the bases, to identify all the knowledge topics that you need to know about and fill those with people. Now, you may do this with a partner, somebody who's working with you at a very close level. It may be an employee who works for you, and if they're a key employee, then we're back to due diligence and fact checking, both to hire them and to show their background to a funding source. It could be somebody on your board of directors who's sitting at policy level, helping guide the company, helping steer it in the right direction. It could be a board of advisor membership where somebody is a specialist in a topic that is helpful to the organization, or a contractor. A contractor could include any service provider, such as your accountant, lawyer, PR person, marketing person, IT person, security person, and all these people make up your team. They are what's being evaluated and judged by the person who's writing the checks. And if you have information about yourself, that's a starting point, but you need to have all the other members of your team provide the same information. You should have it anyway, just so that you know who you're working with, what they're capable of. But you need to be able to have it ready for show and tell to potential investors so that they understand what the team looks like. Is this a team in formation? Is it a team of people who have worked before? Is it a team who can get the job done because they've been there, done that? Are these good people? All these things that are elements or characteristics by which you can be judged become part of your package of information for the team, for the people, which make up only one element of your total package that you need to be ready to show to investor candidates. So because I don't have a guest today and we've had no comments or questions from the audience, I'm going to call it a day at this point, and I'm going to limit this episode of the Successful Funding Show to fact checking and only one aspect of fact checking, which is the people, the team. We're going to come back next week. We're going to keep this topic live because it's a very important thing. And we're going to get into additional things like the organization, fact checking the organization. We're going to get into technology, innovations, inventions. We're going to talk about how you fact check those. We're going to get into the marketplace, which is how the customers see you, the industries in which you would operate, so that these can be fact checked. So we have 3 or 4 major topics. I'm going to try to get some people in who are more specialized in fact checking, or I'm going to bring in entrepreneurs where this has been a big issue for them in moving their project forward, in that they have to demonstrate to people why they justify their own existence. If I'm a new sports drink with 400, 500 competitors out there, why am I different? How do I separate myself? If I have something that's a cure for a disease, how do I prove that? What constitutes proof that's good enough for an investor, but may not yet be good enough for the FDA? And there's all kinds of proofs, and these are all part of who your organization is, your enterprise is, that you need to be able to explain, to show, to demonstrate carefully, concisely, quickly, easily to an investor candidate, so that they understand that you are the right person for the job. Your team can get the job done, that what you're doing is potentially possible. It doesn't necessarily have to be guaranteed. There's always going to be risk associated with a new venture, but what can you do to make them comfortable that you can get the job done? But then we get into issues of, can you get the job done better? Because all sources of funding have all kinds of other people hitting them up for funding. And I have not talked to a funding source in the last several weeks who hasn't, said, yeah, you guys are one of several who are asking me for funding. Why you? You all tell me that you can get me a rate of return. You all have some thing that you want to accomplish, but I could pick any one of you and I would be done for the day as an investor, because I put my money to work. I can go out and do whatever I want to do now because making the decision is over. So why would they choose one out of 10, 20, 50, 100 different opportunities? Why would they choose you? Another thing to look at from a point of fact checking and validation. So for those of you, again, we'll be here next week on the Successful Funding Show. I will post it in advance on LinkedIn, where you'll be able to see the show, and on YouTube. You can watch it live and participate from the audience. I also put out a newsletter called Instant Funding, which is published on LinkedIn. I try to do that a number of times a week, and then do a combination of those weekly to get out to everybody. And these are intended to help people who are seeking funding have access to something I've learned or know about, or my perception about funding, as this show is here to help. Also, we're not quite done yet in that on my website at dakincapital.com, you can go to that website and you can find CAP, who is an AI system on my platform that was built with the help of Knowledge Avatars. And you can ask CAP questions. Just go to dakincapital.com. You'll see a tab for Capital Coach, and there will be CAP. And CAP is sitting there 24/7, able to answer questions about funding and entrepreneurship. And there's a QR code that can take you directly to that page. So if you have an interest, you have a question, and you would like to ask CAP, please do so. Hopefully he can give you an answer and move you on down the path. And then finally, last but not necessarily least, I am available to take a phone call. So if you have a question about funding and you would like to talk to me personally about that, I will set aside 15 minutes of my time without charge to try to zero in on exactly what it is that you're trying to do and what your next step should be to move you towards obtaining the funding that you're looking for. So we've got all kinds of things. We've got this show once a week. We've got newsletters coming out multiple times a week. We have CAP standing by 24/7, and by appointment, you and I can talk for 15 minutes. So I welcome you to gain access to what I've learned during my long career in raising funding. And it is my goal to help all of you get your funding, but there's only one of me. So please consider all the different ways in which you can get the information you need as quickly as possible. Thank you for watching today's program, and we'll see you next week on the Successful Funding Show.